time with the mask on. We can hear you perfectly.
That's my New York voice.
Either that or your godfather.
Yeah, that one's there too.
We've been looking at travel logs from Sicily, and I keep thinking about you.
What are you gonna do? Buy it?
Okay, we're on the air. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, the California Nonprofit Mutual Benefit Corporation. This is Tuesday, January 19th, 2021, 9:30 a.m., and we are being handled virtually. The purpose of the meeting is to conduct the regular Third Mutual Board meeting business in accordance with Civil Code 4930, it's 4930, and was hereby noticed in accordance with Civil Code 4920. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. We do have a quorum. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by Director Wayne Solstack.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. This time we'll acknowledge the media at a distance. Hey, can I hear a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
And Donna seconds it. Okay. Unless there's any objection, we'll consider this by consensus as approved. Okay, hearing no objection, we'll move on to approval of the minutes from December 4th and December 15th. I hear a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Okay. Robert, second by Debbie. Thank you. Any comments, questions, corrections that we need to make on those two sets of minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll consider them approved by consensus. And on to item 6. I'd like to make an announcement on the vote to change the third CCNRs. I'll give you the results of that. The members of Third Mutual have spoken, and while an overwhelming number of those who voted were in favor to adopt the new CCNRs, the number of ballots voted was still not sufficient to approve the restated documents. 2,805, or 46% of our members, voiced their opinion and voted to change the CCNRs, while 1,039 members, or 17%, also voiced their opinion and voted not to change them. The total number of members voting was 3,844, representing 63% of all members eligible to vote, which is an outstanding number. Most elections and ballots in the village have less than 20% of the members voting. One of the reasons that this measure did not pass is that 2,258 members, or 37% of the members, chose not to voice an opinion, which is certainly their right. Well, you might ask why, with such a majority of those voting yes, the measure did not pass. If this were a regular election, the one with the most votes typically wins, and the measure would have passed. This, however, is not a regular election. The current CCNRs require a 67% approval rating of all eligible owners to amend or restate the documents, a percentage that is a very difficult mountain to climb, and even more difficult when 37% of the members chose not to vote. While the members of the board, along with many of the members of the community, are disappointed with the outcome, the election results form the basis for the board's next move. The third board appreciates the hard work of all that contributed to the outcome. At the request of some of the members, there is a general membership meeting scheduled for the 27th of January, for the members to address with each other their issues relating to the CCNRs and bylaws. Once this meeting takes place and the board continues to listen to the members' input, the third board will decide what is the next best course of action. Even though the measure to change the CCNRs did not pass, the third board is committed to continue working in the best interest of the members of Third Mutual. So that's my comments for the morning on that. And we will go forward now to item 7, and that's the open forum. I would advise everybody that at this time, members only may address the board of directors regarding items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of this board of directors. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted for the open forum. Members who want to participate should call 949-268-2020 or email meeting@bmsinc.org to request to speak. So at this time, we'll start with the open forum with a 3-minute limit, and we have allocated 20 minutes for this conversation unless we deem appropriate to go longer. So, do we have any comments?
Good morning, President Parsons and esteemed members of the board. We do have some member comments today. I'd first like to start with Carol Moore at 3399A. Her comment starts with, I request the following letter to be read during the open forum section. Dear members of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board, in an effort to help reduce current excessive insurance premiums, I ask that Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board approve the following or similar amendment to Article 11 of the existing CCNRs. Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board shall cause to obtain and maintain fire and causality insurance not less than insurance industry maximum probable loss of a given year. Respectfully, Carol Moore.
Thank you, Carol. We'll come back and address that a little bit later.
Okay, next member comment is from Les Hajnal at 5270. Member comment reads, Laguna Woods Village is an all-electric development served by the Southern California Edison Company. When the SCE electric service is interrupted, residents lose heating, ventilation, air conditioning, lighting, refrigeration, stove, oven, microwave, TV, internet, everything. Without electrical power, Laguna Woods Village becomes unlivable. And without fossil fuels, California does not have enough electricity to supply everyone and everything. Backup power is needed. Traditional backup power on a limited basis is like engine generators using locally stored fossil fuels are polluting, noisy, and require a lot of space. The Green New Deal would further restrict this option. Income the microgrids. Scalable from single house to the entire village, the microgrid uses batteries charged overnight by SCE if power is available, or by solar power during the daytime to serve as backup power for essential emergency needs, or maybe even more. The cost to user to install a microgrid with government subsidies may be less as $0 and is beneficial, benefits are immeasurable. In other words, adoption of the microgrid concept at Laguna Woods Village is really a no-brainer. If Laguna Woods Village administration wishes to consider the microgrid option, I'm willing to contribute my time at no cost to help guide the effort. I'm a registered professional engineer with over 60 years of experience in the design and project management of electrical systems. I owned and operated a multidisciplinary engineering firm as a CEO in Los Angeles for over 40 years. Our customers include major industrial, commercial, residential, institutional, and government entities. Les Hajnal, and he gives us information. Next member comment is Darlene Bacchus at 4023A. Dear members of 3rd Laguna Woods Mutual Board, in effort to help reduce the current excessive insurance premiums, I ask that 3rd Laguna Hills Board approve the following similar amendment to Article 11. 3rd Laguna Hills Board shall cause to obtain and maintain fire and causality insurance not less than the insurance industry maximum probable loss of the given year. Respectfully, Darlene Bacchus. Next member comment is from Catherine Freshley, 5490, N as in Nancy. I appreciate your time and efforts on behalf of the community. I understand the challenges of serving on community boards after having devoted 9 years of service on 3rd and GRF. We have a real challenge of facing us regarding the cost of insurance. Since I currently serve on the Joint Powers Insurance Authority for the California water industry, I am well aware of the challenges to obtain fire and causality insurance coverage. However, a complete rewrite of the CC&Rs is not necessarily necessary to resolve the insurance issue. The existing CC&Rs can be easily amended, and the community will support that action. I ask that you, the 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual, approve the following or similar amendment to Article 11, insurance of our current CC&Rs. 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual Board shall cause to be obtained and maintain fire and causality insurance not less than insurance industry maximum probable loss of given year. Catherine Freshley. Next member comment is from Karen Shore at 40123G. Dear 3rd Mutual Directors, on December 30th, I received by mail a notice from the 3rd Mutual regarding special meeting on January 27th of 2021 of the 3rd Mutual Board. As this is a very important meeting for residents, would you please discuss the format of the meeting today, as some information was not included in that notice? Specifically, number 1, will there be back and forth dialogue between residents and board members on resident questions and comments at the meeting? It is very important for the residents who brought forth a petition requesting this meeting to have their concerns heard by all residents of 3rd Mutual. Number 2, with the format for this meeting included prior access for resident comments by email at meeting@vms.org, as is in place for all of other open meetings. This email access is important information for all residents to be aware of prior to January 27, 2021 meeting. Number 3, will a video of this meeting be concurrently available on Granicus or TV6? It is important for 3rd Mutual residents to make plans for viewing the meeting prior to January 27th. It is important for residents to hear from all board members during this very important meeting called for by residents of 3rd Mutual. Residents very much appreciate hearing from the directors who represent them. Thank you for your attention to my request. Sincerely, Karen Shore. Next member comment is from Bob Hatch, 5064. What's the rush? We members have heard no comment from the board as to the election. The ballot combined a number of important issues but did not ask for a separate vote on each. Instead, they were bundled into a single yes or no vote. The letters that accompanied the ballot only suggested a yes vote. And of the various issues, the only change which was understood called for an immediate action was insurance coverage. If a separate vote was taken, I believe the insurance change would have overwhelming support. The petition submitted to the board asks that we deal with the insurance now and form task forces to study others before submitting changes for vote. The matter of consolidation is very complex, largely because of our size and diversity in manor types and demographics. And contrary to the board's argument, there may be more compelling reasons to reject it. It's important that we recognize that since 1988, we have operated as if we were consolidated. In fact, only recently have we recognized that there was no legal consolidation. If there are flaws in our current practice, why should we vote to continue them? Please form a task force to study and recommend appropriate action. I believe there are alternatives to complete consolidation that would better recognize the needs of our housing and neighborhood types, make management and government easier, and at no additional cost. In the meantime, we can continue to muddle along until a better system is suggested. What's the rush? Next member comment is from Rosemary Quinn, 5480, B as in Bravo. 2 questions and statement to the board, please. Number 1, what will be the actual amount that will be expended for insurance from October 2020 until October 2021? Question 2, what are the actual 2020 disaster fund and unappropriated fund numbers? And I request the following letter be read during the open forum. Dear members of 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual, in an effort to help reduce current excessive insurance premiums, I ask that 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual Board approve the following or similar amendments to the Article 11 of the existing CC&Rs. 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual shall cause to be obtain and maintain fire and causality insurance not less than insurance industry maximum probable loss of the given year. Respectfully, Rosemary Quinn. Next member comment from Susan Smallwood at 3033N and 3456B. First, at the December meeting, Mr. Parker was going to research my concerns with regarding to the huge gaping hole in the side of my building at 3033 from a car accident that occurred in October of 2020. It has not been repaired. You can continue to allow rats, mice, skunks, raccoons, etc. to get in. Imagine the smell and destruction when the smaller critters get into our walls and die. You will be responsible for all repairs when you have to open walls for repairs, not just your common areas, but our interior walls to the repainting inside. As I have pointed out before, you have contractual duty, if not fiduciary duty, to protect our home's value. We already have 2 lowball sales in my building in the last 4 months that I have had to delay the sale of my home at a large cost to me. Second, I continue to have hope that you will open up a meaningful dialogue with the membership you have been nominated or voted in as our representatives as to the insurance issues and get an amendment in place. We can then move forward with a task force with many knowledgeable residents as to the other issues in the failed ballot vote. Please take down the wall. Leiling Isaacs, 5194. Number 1, what was the total spent on insurance from October 1st, 2020 to September 30th of 2021? How much came from the monthly dues for the same period, and how much came from other sources such as reserves? Number 2, who commissioned and paid for the survey 3rd sent out last year? How did it cost? How much did it cost? By the way, did we not receive such a survey to our recollection? But my husband's email was incorrect in your records. Still is. Thank you. Next member comment is from Jules Zylon, 3124A. I object to the board's refusal to allow members to actively speak remotely as at open board meetings. Davis Sterling, section 4925 clearly states, quote, The board shall permit any member to speak at meeting of the association or the board. Board President Parsons claims so-called technology limitations prevent members from appearing remotely at meetings. Excuse me.
Typing.
Yes. Okay. Technology prevent members from appearing remotely at meetings. Of course, this is preposterous. Most directors have appeared remotely for almost a year. The board often allows members to speak remotely. Twice I appeared remotely. Clicking on a supplied link. Has Mr. Parsons never heard of Skype, Zoom, or Granicus? Anyone wishing to speak during the comment period could email a request and then during the comment period could email a request and then follow the same procedure I used when I appeared remotely. The right to speak is qualitatively different from having statements speed read by a disinterested reader. I counted 11 separate mentions of the word speak in our current rules, and not one of them is interchangeable with a submission of written statements. Directors speak at every meeting. Nothing in the law or logic allows this board to change the meaning of that word solely as applied to members' right to speak at open meetings. Following the statement procedure at the upcoming special members meeting would violate by law section 5.8.2.1, which states, at every special meeting, any question shall be decided by a majority of the membership presented in person or by proxy. Of course, the right to decide means the right to make motions, to second motions, to discuss motions, and to vote on motions, all impossible without the right to speak. I urge the board to allow members wishing to speak or make motions at the special meeting to register their requests and then publicly announce how members can participate at the meeting. Finally, I asked the question I asked before. Has the board abandoned the ballot initiative? Let me repeat that because no one has yet answered this question. Has the board finally abandoned the ballot initiative? Thank you. Last member comment from Mirza and Kathleen Begg at 3112C. Good morning. There is an underage resident at 3112P living without permit since October of 2019. It is affecting our health due to the constant noise of slamming closet doors in succession, dropping boxes on the floor, walking with heavy foot throughout the day and late into the morning. We called compliance in first week of November. No action was taken. We did speak with Vice President of Laguna Woods on January 12th. Mr. Carlos Rojas called the same day and informed us that we would be following up with compliance. No one has contacted us since. We are the owners of a residence of 3112C. We have made several calls to security and compliance since November 2020. We have rented hotel rooms on several occasions to escape from punishment. We have also rented an office space so that my disabled son could have quiet time away from his room. We need help. Thank you. Respectfully, Mirza and Kathleen Begg. That is all. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. Let me start in here with Carol Moore, and several people have mentioned an amendment. However, folks need to understand that to make an amendment to the CC&Rs, we still have to have another general vote. We can't just do that arbitrarily on our own. So please keep that in mind. We like the comments that you're saying. There are some limitations we cannot deal with, and that's just limiting our insurance to probable loss. That is not necessarily acceptable by insurance companies because it's so little. Remember that we're valued at $1.6 billion. The maximum probable loss it's considered to be what could happen in the village as a whole is only $150 million. That is not enough to really satisfy the insurance companies. We'll give you more on that in the future. And remember that the purchasing of the mortgages from broker regions and other places like that that want to sell to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the requirement is still 100% coverage. We do have a waiver in on that, but the government hasn't moved forward yet on that, so we are still held by that provision. Does anybody else want to chime in on this? Okay, Robert?
Yes, as for Carolyn Moore, Catherine Freshley, and I forget who the third person was who specifically asked and quoted almost the same statement related to the insurance. The problem with probable minimum of a probable maximum loss of $150 million. Now, none of them was suggesting that we should just get the PML, but they were suggesting that it be at least the PML. The problem is, whatever we're, as you indicated, Steve, we're valued at $1.6 billion. If we insure for 200 million, 300 million, 400 million, let's say that's the number, and we have some catastrophic loss, the people who are going to suffer are the members of Third Mutual, because they would only get that percentage of the value of the unit to rebuild. So insuring for 100% is actually the most protective way for our members as we move forward. The problem is what we can afford. To address that same issue, Rosemary Quinn asked about what our insurance cost was, and if I understood correctly, she was asking what it was from October 21 to October 22. Our current total insurance cost for this year, from October 21 of 2020 to October to September 30th, 2021, is $4.9 million. That's the total cost of our insurance. They also asked about the issue of what our reserves are in the disaster fund. When we get to the finance report, there'll be a chart put up on the screen that'll show you exactly what's available in each of those funds. But that addresses the issue of the insurance and the PML. I'll hold my comments on some of the other items for later. Steve, you're muted.
Did you also want to address Eileen Isaac's comments on the amount of the insurance and survey costs? You're muted.
I'm not sure what she's referring to in terms of survey. Is she referring to survey costs related to what it costs for insurance, what it costs for? I'm not sure what she's referring to.
I think it's the PML. Why it was generated and what the cost was to us.
Well, the PML was part of the work done by our broker, Beecher Carlson, if I remember correctly. They provided the PML work. Jeff, I guess Jeff or Siobhan could address that.
Okay, Jeff, you want to make a comment?
Sure. With regards to the probable maximum loss quote, that information that was provided, that came from our broker who ran a report. There's a number of options with regards to running a probable maximum loss sequence. They did that when we were in the midst of the renewal process, so people would have an understanding of that. As both yourself and Robert had mentioned, the probable maximum loss is a scientific, data-driven probability. What would be considered a expectation of this loss if you had a catastrophic event. It is just driven by data that is collected and statewide, nationwide, and all that, and put into a computer system and spit out. It doesn't take away Third's obligation, as you know, under your CCNRs for what you legally are bound to do. That is a totally different issue. But it was done, and it was done at early in the stages, and as indicated, believe that the probable maximum loss number that they came up with originally was $150 million.
Very much. We go back here to Les's comment about all electric interruption. Backup power is needed, possibility of a microgrid. Bert Muldown has been very active on this. He's a GRF board member, and he's brought a lot of these things to our attention. We are looking at that as a possibility, but I'd also like to know, Jeff and Siobhan, from the staff standpoint, have you folks been into looking at this as well?
Steve, if you want, just real quickly, we have there is a Edison, well, there's two issues that the gentleman brought up that there's first the issue of during the high fire season and windy seasons that we're going through right now. In fact, a number of places in LA County, I'm not sure Orange County has been affected today, where there are high wind warnings. SCE has put into place under the PUC. They have guidelines that are specific to wind warnings and wind events where they can shut off power due to the concerns that if you have high winds that there could be arcing with the major power lines that Edison has along with Southern San Diego Gas and Electric and PG&E up in Northern California. They all have this regulation now due to all of the wildfires that existed previous years, that some of them were caused by arcing of major power lines. So there is now a permissible process that is required of SCE to evaluate and shut down power in certain areas where these wind events could cause arcing and could cause additional fire hazards. So that is one thing that was mentioned in there. So that is absolutely true, and that could put residents in the village potentially in a situation where the power would be turned off for a period of time in order to escape those wind issues that we're doing it. Secondly, as we had indicated in our conversation with Steve and Annie previously and coming through information that had been requested by Bert Muldow, SCE has what's called a Ready To program. This is a program that is also looking at alternatives to bring in more EV chargers into communities and into certainly the village, and we're looking at that as a possibility to see what kind of additional EV chargers. With regards to microgrids, that is something that has had a lot of dialogue. It's gone through the M&C committees previously. At this point in time, there wasn't any direction from M&C committees to move forward with any specific microgrid concepts. The one proposal that was made was previously that was brought to the M&C committee was pretty expensive with upfront cost. Some of that is changing since that report went to the committee, so we'll continue to evaluate whether there is a way in which additional microgrids or additional electric power like EV stations and that can be brought to the village with a minimal expense to the village, if that can be upfronted by companies or upfronted by SCE. That certainly makes it more passable for the community to accept that kind of development. And we'll be keeping you updated on that.
Thank you very much. Let's see, on to Karen Shor's comments. I believe, Robert, you would like to make a comment on that, her comments?
Yeah, Ms. Shore, thank you for your comments and your questions regarding information. I can assure you that later this week, there will be a letter sent to all members of Third Mutual that will detail for them how to link in, the way the meeting will be handled, whether or not there'll be dialogue, and we'll certainly accept input, etc. All those things will be answered in a letter to all the members later this week. But it's a very good question and an appropriate question. And the same goes for Jules. All of that will be addressed then. As for his issue to speak, that's been addressed on numerous occasions, and the board stands at this point behind the position that President Parsons has taken with you, Jules, as it relates to speaking at these meetings.
And on to Bob Hatch's comments about the election results. I think I answered that in my announcement that I made earlier. And as to the yes, no vote, we looked at that considerably and considerable amount of time. We thought that because there's being so many issues, the changes demanded by Sacramento, as well as bringing our own CCNRs up to date, and the insurance situation, we thought that that would be better just to have a yes, no vote. And as far as bringing it forward, we elected as a board to do that. We thought it was time to bring it instead of kicking the can down the road. So I hope that helps Bob understand that a little bit better. As far as developing a task force to look at the CCNRs, the board will take that into consideration, more consideration after the meeting on the 27th. Okay, on to Susan Smallwood, hole in her wall. Jeff, would you like to speak about that? I have no knowledge of her comment.
Yes, thank you, Steve. With regards to Ms. Smallwood, that the incident occurred with a car accident at that location at B330-33. We obviously taped it off, barricaded the area, tarped it off, and then a scope of work was put together by our Manor Alterations. That scope of work, working along with our insurance, with Dan Yost and Insurance, got that scope of work done, and that scope of work has then been provided over to our purchasing department to get the bid out and get that work completed. I don't have an update with regards to the actual bid work, what the time frame is on that, but as soon as I get that, I will contact Mrs. Smallwood and let her know.
And Susan, on your comment on open dialogue on insurance, more to follow on the 27th meeting, the members meeting. Okay, on to finish up on some of Julie's comments. The abandonment of the ballot initiative. We will be considering more as what our options are as a board after the meeting on the 27th. But right now, we think that people have spoken, so we are moving forward. So more to follow on that. On technology limitations, we know that we've had some here in the past. Remember, we're in a COVID situation. We aren't the only entity that's having to struggle with this. So there have been some limitations. We are looking at getting a greater license for more people to participate for the meeting on the 27th. But Jeff or Siobhan, do you want to talk any more about your technology limitations and staff limitations?
With regards to in anything specific, Steve, or just in general?
I think his comment is, why haven't we been able to open up for anybody to participate, just like we are on a link, to voice whatever they want to voice and be seen rather than having to read comments. And this goes for committees as well as board meetings.
Well, with regards to the process with the go-to-meetings and whether we went to the process of go-to-meetings as our way of holding board meetings and the technology since the COVID-19 hit, there are limitations with regards to the processing and handling of requests and getting people. So the most efficient way of getting responses read is to read them because of the limitations on the amount of go-to-meeting participants that you can have and the queries that come from having expanded. We are, however, looking at a different operation with regards to technology for the upcoming 27th meeting that you're going to have, looking at potentially using a Zoom concept that will allow for a little bit more flexibility in our system to project to more people. Number one, the capacity is greater. And then secondly, looking at what will be the process in which how communication can go back and forth within that Zoom concept. So we're looking at switching potentially to the Zoom process with regards to your 27th meeting. But with regards to board meetings, we've been consistent with all boards and all committees and all processes. So staying consistent and staying in a directive that we've been using is the most efficient for our operation, and it meets with I think the intent that we had with regards to communication with our residents and through the boards, and not just this board, but every board, and trying to be consistent with all the boards and mutuals as well as your committees. The go-to-meeting process has worked pretty well. There have been, obviously, as you know, because you participate in that, there's always a few glitches, but that communication tool we think has been the most appropriate administrative tool to have these meetings and anticipate moving forward with that.
Thank you very much. And on to Kathleen Baig's comments. An unauthorized person living near her causing a lot of noise. Are either you or Siobhan brought up to speed with this?
I can take that one, Steve. I spoke with Mr. Begg about a week ago. Carlos then called Mr. Begg and then was going to have compliance get involved. I'll make sure that compliance has gotten involved, and we'll get that matter resolved. So we are on top of it, Steve.
Very much. Okay, any other comments or questions due to the response to open forum speakers? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead to item 9, to CEO, COO report.
Good morning, board members, and thank you, President Parsons. I have two things that I wanted to bring up. Number one is just some COVID numbers. Again, unfortunately, the county kind of lagging. If you went on board this morning and look at it, they're actually saying that this is January 11th data, so that's not quite correct. But probably the two numbers that I wanted to mention was that we are still over 500 with regards to 500 beds in the ICU that are occupied, and over 2,000 beds in the total hospitalizations that have been, and this has been consistent for the last 3 weeks now, where we've had these high numbers. And as you know, with regards to being in not only in the highest category with regards to all of the counties, we are now grouped into the Southern California region, which is San Luis Obispo County all the way to San Diego County. And that 500 plus ICU beds is very concerning, because it is references pretty much a zero capacity environment where they really are having to be very careful about how people are coming into the ICUs, how they're getting triaged, and who's taking priority when you're talking about COVID patients, but you're also talking about individuals who have need for emergency care, whether it's a broken arm or a heart attack or a stroke or any type of activity that needs critical care. That includes these numbers as well. So that's where the real concern comes when the COVID-19 numbers have spiked like they are. On the positive note, as we have been on Channel 6 informing people, and certainly spoke to board members yesterday real briefly, we are working with Orange County Health Care Agency, who supplies the vaccines, and Memorial Care here down the street here, who is helping us administer a program in which we are going to be rolling out vaccinations to our community here in the village. And it's real exciting news, because as it's proposed right now, if you are eligible and are interested in getting the vaccine, the process through the county is going to be through 5 super sites, although they don't have them all open yet. Those super sites, I'll mention them real quickly, are Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, Orange County Fairgrounds, the Great Park, and Soka University. So that's where these appointments are being made, and it is appointment basis only, where you can go on to Athena, which is the website. If you go to Orange County Healthcare, there is a website there that they'll connect you to, and you can get on the app and make your application through Athena to get an appointment. The important thing is that relative to the village, our allocation from the Orange County, and this is really an effort that we pushed the county, and working with Memorial Care, we were able to get a direct allocation for the village. It's pretty unique, I think. And that allocation, unfortunately, to start with, is not nearly the amount that we need to make this full and complete operation. It is 3,000 units, so 3,000 vaccines, and we'll be allocating those 3,000 vaccines this weekend. We're going to start rolling it out on Friday and then Saturday and Sunday. The process for those watching on thing is that you will be contacted for a potential appointment. And we have focused first on the 75 and older population of our community. And the reason for that is that's how we started this program, working with the state and the county. They were all fixating on 75 and older. Then it changed halfway through, which is what it does every day, it seems like. Now they're talking about 65 and older, but we're still focusing on 75 and older to our community. And the reason for that is we have over 9,000 residents in the village that are over 75. So clearly, just to address that population, it's going to take multiple weekends, assuming that we get 3,000 vaccines each week. If we get more, then the question is going to be, can Memorial Care help administer more? But given what they can do right now, we're looking at 3,000 vaccines this weekend, this first weekend. The process, again, the notification is that you will be notified of, so it's a random selected process. We have all the names of everybody that's 75 and over. We've taken that, we're doing a random selection process with both United and Third involvement, and that random process will allow for Memorial Care to send out a text and email to the individuals and get that done as soon as we can, and get that process so that people can get their appointments for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we have made provisions in that email and that text process so people can say yes, confirmed, and or not confirmed if they're denying it. The key there is there is no way to call in, so I want to get residents, make sure, don't call our resident services right now. We'll be contacting you with regards to the appointment. So I want to make it real clear. Don't call us. We're going to be reaching out to you for an appointment and when that appointment will be made. Now, the key that I wanted to mention is, again, on this vaccine is, and all the participation, is that this is going to be rolled out over time, obviously, depending on how well we get allocations from the county. We want to show them that these first 3,000 went smoothly and got out to our community of 75 and older, and they've indicated that if that's the case, then they'll continue to give us more vaccines. So that's the good news. Our goal is to get everybody in the village vaccinated. Get their second, these are both Pfizer and Moderna. We're starting with Moderna. So that process, again, is 2 shots. So you get your first vaccine this weekend, and then 21 to 28 days later, you get the second shot. Again, we're lining up, planning on doing all of the people in the village and the second shots included. So this is going to take a while. For those people, and this is important for me to say, if anybody is concerned, anxious, wants to see if they can get the shot any earlier than what we're doing, we want you to go ahead and make that attempt. What you have to do, again, is go on Athena, which is the Orange County Healthcare line that they're doing at their website / their app, and their reservation process. Again, everything is a reservation process, so you're more than welcome. We were talking to a board member yesterday who has an appointment on Saturday. Go to your appointment. If you can get your appointment through Athena, we highly encourage you to do that. because it may take several weeks before you get your appointment here at the village. So if you can get it lined up, we're more than want you to do that, highly encourage you to do that. So take advantage of the Orange County system if all possible. We look forward to kicking this off this weekend. And again, I want to thank Orange County Healthcare Agency for making a direct delivery to us via Memorial Care as our administrator, and of course thank Memorial Care for their efforts in that, and look for emails and text coming up in the real near future so we can get people lined up for their appointments. And the last thing I want to say on that is, if you're 75 and older, which you would be the ones included, and you have a transportation need, you can use various transportation programs that we're going to use with Lyft. Certainly you could drive yourself or take your golf cart over there. It will be at Clubhouse 7. There is paperwork that has to be put together, so look for that, put your paperwork together, and then bring that paperwork in for smooth transitioning at the location. And we appreciate your patience on this, but we're very excited about being able to provide this to the community. And that's all I have, and I'll turn it over to Siobhan for other items.
Thank you, Jeff. Honorable President, members of the board, I have a few announcements this morning. First of all, the City of Laguna Woods, in cooperation with the Orange County Healthcare Agency and the 360 Clinic, is offering free walk-up COVID-19 testing. This occurs every Wednesday and Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Laguna Woods City Hall. Appointments and face masks are required. You need to bring a form of identification and your insurance card. Results are returned within 72 hours, and after test resources are available. To register, please go to 360clinic.md. Again, that's 360clinic.md. Effective yesterday, pools 1, 2, 4, and 5 have new hours. Pool 1 is open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily and opens at 10 a.m. on Tuesday for weekly maintenance. Pool 2 is open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily and opens at 9 a.m. on Wednesday for weekly maintenance. Pool 4 is open from 9 to 9 daily. Pool 5 is open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily and opens at 9 a.m. on Thursday for weekly maintenance. You can make your reservations up to 7 days in advance via the court system or by telephone between 10 a.m. and noon, Monday through Friday, by calling Recreation, and that number is 949-597-4382. I also want to mention that the horse trail by building 921 off of Avienda Majorca tentatively is closed this week from January 18th through the 22nd. This will allow South Coast Water District to complete maintenance on its water valve and main line that is under the horse trail. The horse trail must be shut down from all access points to allow for this project to be completed safely. And lastly, I want to mention that the next pre-bulky item pickup will be Saturday, February 20th. And in order to participate in that, please remember to notify resident services prior to setting out your bulky items. And that number is 949-597-4600. Thank you.
I want to take us back to the vaccination program. We have two questions. The first one is, who will pay the nursing staff for vaccine, and I guess for shots? The other is, does this program include tenants or leasees?
So the first one is the Memorial Care staff. These are volunteers that are working Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from Memorial Care. They are Memorial Care volunteers and staff from that will be doing the vaccine, and they have to be licensed, I guess, well, the best way to say it, with regards to using or implementing the vaccine. With regards to the second question, I'm not sure how, when we gave them the prioritized the list. That's a good question, Steve. I'll have to get back to you on that specifically unless Siobhan knows the answer to that question. With regards to, we took the listing of our residents that were 75 and over, which, like I said, was over 9,000, and provided that to Memorial Care. And they were helping with using the analytics that we gave them with regards to the distribution. That's where that list came from.
Jeff, I do have an update on that. Any resident is going to get vaccinated, whether owner or leasee.
Okay, thank you on that. Any comments or questions for Jeff and Siobhan? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on, we'll come to the consent calendar, item 10. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent calendar? Annie moves. Is there a second? Donna, thank you very much. Comments or questions? Unless anybody wants to bring up a comment, we'll consider this under consensus. Okay. Oh, Robert, go ahead. Go ahead.
On the consent calendar, is there not a mistake on item 10C1?
Not that I'm aware of.
I thought we approved at the committee that they could modify that patio by taking down part of that wall. And this says recommendation to deny.
Okay, number 2 was an approval of a variance request.
Number 2 was the inside bathroom, but I thought also that the committee approved the recommendation to allow Mr. Nick to re-alter part of the existing structure of his patio to open it up more.
Okay, I thought that it was to deny, but what we can do is take it off consent calendar, take it back to the committee, and then bring it back next time.
John Frankel has a hand up. John Frankel has a hand.
I think you're right, Robert.
Okay. So we should take it back to the committee for restatement and then bring it back to the board. Okay, you want to make a motion to do that, Robert?
Well, I'm kind of torn about it because my recollection is that we approved it, and I've been in communication with Mr. Nick since, because he was at the meeting, at the M&C meeting, and he heard everything that went on, and he wanted to know when he would be formally approved by the board. Sandra has her hand up.
Go ahead, Sandra.
There was a legal issue that this particular proposal created. I was asked to opine on that. I have now prepared a communication to the board on this with the recommendation.
So then we should remove this from the consent calendar at this point in time.
Yes, you should.
Okay, then I will make that recommendation. I will make that motion to remove it.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, John? Okay. All in favor of removing that from the consent calendar, raise your hand, please. Okay, Reza, your vote?
Okay.
Okay, we will remove that and look at Sandra's comments. Okay, as to the other items on there, are there any other comments or questions? If not, we'll consider that accepted by consent. Okay, unfinished business. Director Jarrett. Item 11.
Thank you, President Parsons. This item is a motion to approve a resolution to amend the lease authorization policy. And this policy was to revise the policy to align with Assembly Bill 3182. And these updates to prohibit short-term rentals of 30 days or less, and limit the total number of rental homes in the community to no less than 25%. They can, and also you cannot require owners to occupy a unit prior to leasing of unit. This motion, this has already passed its satisfied 28 days. So I make a motion that we approve this resolution.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, Craig seconds. Okay, any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll ask for a vote at this time. All in favor of this, raise your hand, and raise it if you give me your comment, please.
Yes.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, it passes. Okay, next is an update on insurance broker for Third Mutual, oral report. I assume this is Robert.
Okay, Finance Committee report?
No, item 11B.
Oh, update on insurance. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I was looking ahead. Third board has formally decided that it was not going to be part of the RFP with United and GRF. United and GRF have now sent out an RFP for a new broker. We have decided, the third board has decided to go forward and try to work with a company by the name of Gallagher. Gallagher is the third largest brokerage house in the United States, and we are specifically trying to work with an individual by the name of John Tastor, Tastor, who is the broker of record for Rossmore. Rossmore is a facility that is very similar in size, design, and in terms of fire situation to Third Mutual. And they've been able to obtain the necessary kinds of insurances that they need for coverage. And we feel that working out an arrangement with Tastor and Gallagher is in the best interest of Third Mutual.
Right? Any comments, questions about his report? Okay, thank you very much. Before we go on, there's a question that's been posed. Maybe it wasn't clear enough, but Jeff or Siobhan, if you could answer it, on getting shots. If people need transportation to get to Clubhouse 7, can that be arranged? How would that work?
Certainly. Thank you, Steve. There is several ways that transportation will be provided to Clubhouse 7. Again, this is appointment only, so you can call our transportation. We're going to be working with Lyft, so their Lyft ridership will have also, our buses will be operating their standard operations with regards to that. And also we've been working with the city to get the cab vouchers that are available with regards to that. So the key is when you call transportation to get a lift to Clubhouse 7, you're going to have to note that you have a reservation. And with that, then we'll make an appointment with you, or you can make an appointment directly with Lyft to get over there. We do anticipate people using their own golf carts and cars to get there. The key is, if you're going to go through our transportation to get a lift over there, you want to make sure that you have an actual reservation appointment to get a vaccine.
Thank you, Jeff. And if I might make a recommendation to you, the next time you're on this date, could you cover that topic for everyone, please? Because not everybody listens in on a board meeting, but a lot of people tend to listen to it today.
And we're going to have updates during the week, this week, for sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, back on track here to, let's see. Give me a second here. Debbie, did you want to make a final comment on vaccine?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, there's been a lot of social media about the Moderna vaccine. So Jeff or Siobhan, could you just address that what you told us yesterday about it again on this open meeting?
Certainly. Thank you, Donna. Debbie, what was mentioned yesterday was after there was a situation where some of the Moderna shots down in San Diego caused a reaction. So we contacted Memorial Care, and Memorial Care verified that the vaccines that we have are not associated with the vaccines that were in San Diego. They're from a totally different batch of vaccines that were provided to us, and they feel very comfortable and positive about our vaccines not being in any way tainted from any perspective. So they're ready to go, and we're ready to go.
That's your question, Debbie?
Yes, thank you. I just want, I know there's been a lot about it, so that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we'll move into item 12. And I would like to make a comment here. I don't see in our packet where we had a new list of people assigned to committees or things like that. So with the indulgence of the board, I would like to take a vote on Donna being the new chair of the Water Committee and Debbie being the new chair of the Park and Golf Park Task Force. So are there any objections to taking a vote on that in absence of the other list?
So move.
Okay, second? Okay, Annie seconds it. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, signify by raising your hand if you would. Okay, and Reza?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It passes unanimously. Okay, that should take care of that one item. Any other new business?
Steve,
Anybody
Steve, in the chat box, you had a comment from Raquel.
Okay.
It was Steve, forget it. It was just that I couldn't hear at the time. I didn't know if anyone else was having the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to committee reports. First one is the Finance Committee, Director Wishman.
Thank you, President Parsons. All right. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy in this new year. Tomorrow marks a new beginning for our country, and hoping this year we can put the virus behind us. As your treasurer, I'm pleased to share with you the figures we have for the month of November. We're still working on the closing figures for the year 2020, and we'll report those to you as soon as we have them. Next slide, Grant, please. If it's Grant who's changing them, or Cheryl. All right, this slide depicts income for Third Mutual for the last 3 months, September, October, and November. Assessment revenue year to date at the end of November is $30 million, while non-assessment revenue is $2,023,000 for the same period. Adding these two together, our total revenue to date is $32,423,000. As the three bars on the left side demonstrate, assessment revenue month over month is steady, with growth for November of $2,764,000, which is basically the same as the previous month. Looking at the group of bars second from the left, non-assessment revenue for the month of November was a plus $149,000. Now, looking at the set of bars in the middle of the slide for the month of November, Third had expenses of $2,893,000. With total expenses, the second set of bars from the right for the year to date, total expenses are $29,212,000. Now, looking at the bar graphs on the far right of the chart, Third Mutual had a net revenue of $3,211,000, which is a very slight increase, $20,000 in net revenue for the 30 days ending in November. This is not fully unexpected, as we've been reporting for the last few months. Invoices from vendors that have been fulfilling contracts for Third Mutual are being received and paid at an increased rate. For example, roofing, dry rot, slope maintenance, and tree trimming. We've been catching up with these vendors and others who've been completing work. Next slide, please. This slide presents data for income for the operating fund only for the 3 months ending November. Looking at the bar graphs at the far left of this chart, assessment revenue increased over the most recent 30-day period by $1,686,000, exactly the same amount as the previous month, which is what we expect for every month. Our assessment revenue is stayed steady month over month, year to date. Now, shifting your gaze to the second set of bar graphs from the left, non-assessment revenue. This increased by $66,000 for a monthly revenue increase of $1,752,000 for a grand total of $19,585,000 for the year to date. Now looking at the bar graphs second from the right side of the chart. Total expenses during this same time period. Third total expenses increased by $1,970,000. Subtracting total expenses year to date from total revenue year to date takes us to the bar graph on the far right, which leaves us now with a surplus of $40,000. Our surplus has steadily decreased over the past few months and is now considerably lower than what was originally projected for the end of the year. Director Parsons and I have been speaking with our finance division to ascertain why our operating surplus has decreased so rapidly. As you can see from the slide on the far right, back at the end of September, we had an operating surplus of $512,000. Some of the decrease can be attributed to the dramatic increase in the cost of insurance. We are working with Finance Division to have a full understanding of what has taken place with regards to our operating surplus, since we made certain budgetary decisions based on the expected operating surplus being much greater than it currently is. Next slide, please. Grant, next slide, please. Thank you. This slide compares our actual revenues and expenses to what was originally budgeted. As can be seen from the slide, actual and budgeted assessment revenue was, as one would expect, the same. Looking at non-assessment revenue, the second set of bar graphs from the left, the actual is in red, the budgeted is in green, while the variance is in yellow. The non-assessment revenue had a positive variance of $201,000 of actual over budgeted for year to date ending November. Now, looking at the bar graphs in the section second from the right, total expense, one can see that our actual expenses year to date were $5,346,000 less than budgeted. This leaves Third Mutual with a plus $5,548,000 revenue over expenses to date. Next slide, please. This slide compares our actual revenues and expenses to what was originally budgeted. As can be seen from the slide, actual and budgeted assessment revenue was, as one would expect, the same. Looking at non-assessment revenue, the second set of bars, whereas from the left, the actual is in red. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, this is not, I'm reading the wrong chart. This slide provides you with a picture of selected budget items and the current variances associated with each of the months of November. You also have the opportunity to see how each of these variances compared to the variance for each category at the end of both September and October. The top bar in each category, which are the green, represent the variances at the end of September, while the middle bars, which are gold, represent the dollar amount of the variance for each category at the end of October. And finally, the top bar in each category, the brown bars, represent the reporting period, November. As you can see, looking only at the brown bars, Third continues to have favorable variances for each of the categories for outside services, employee compensation, unrealized gains on AFS, materials and supplies, and utilities and telephone for the period ending November 30th. There has been a positive variance in each of these categories for the past 3 months. Obviously, they vary from month to month, with the biggest single change taking place in outside vendors. With the expected invoices from outside vendors that will come in over the next few weeks, we fully expect this positive variance to decrease considerably. The last two categories have an unfavorable variance. In the case of insurance, the unfavorable variance continues to be the result of higher than expected premiums to the tune of $1,009,000 additional year to date. Please remember, we budgeted beginning January for this year. So the insurance increases that took place October, November, December are now being paid out of last year's budget. That's why there's the unexpected increase. Thankfully, December will be the last month for paying for more than we budgeted in this area. Next slide, please. This slide depicts two pie charts. The one on the left for October 31st, while the one on the right is for total non-assessment revenue for the period ending November 30th. Third had additional total non-assessment income of $166,230 month over month. Most of the different categories of the two pie charts stayed within 1 or 2 percentage points of the previous month. Next slide. This slide also depicts two pie charts for comparison purposes, month over month. Third had additional expenses of $2,893,000. The percentage of expenses for each of these categories also remained fairly similar month over month. Next slide. For this slide, I always like to direct you to look first at the lower right-hand corner. As of November 30th, the third mutual had $32,092,000 in reserves and contingencies. This represents an increase in this category of approximately $250,000 for the past month. Included in this total is $66,000 in the Garden Villa Fund, a decrease of $3,000 from last month, just over $4,272,000 in the unappropriated expenditures. This is an increase of $60,000 from the previous month. In the Disaster Fund, we have $8,988,000, a decrease of $62,000 month over month. And finally, $18,766,000 in the Replacement Fund, which is an increase of $255,000 over the previous month total in this category. Year to date, Third had $12.8 million in contributions and interest added to these funds, while we had $9.5 million in expenditures, for a net increase year to date of just over $3.3 million, which is the total increase in the non-operating fund balances for the year. Next slide, please. This slide compares the different fund balances for the past 5 years, which have averaged a little over $28.6 million. Please note that Third has been committed to supporting the goals of the reserve requirements, while at the same time trying to balance the need for unexpected events. As evidenced by this slide, we are making progress, albeit small, but still progress to increasing our fund balances. Last slide, please. This slide provides you with a picture of the resale situation for Third for the past 3 years. Year to date, we are down 75 resales for the same time last year and 71 from 2 years ago this time. However, some good news is that the average resale price for Third is $420,000, up an average of $7,000 per unit sold. Additionally, I can report that there are still over about 60 additional units in escrow. However, I don't know how many of them belong specifically to Third and how many belong to United. That concludes the Treasurer's report for this month. Our next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 2nd at 1:30. Please know that President Parsons and I will continue to work to understand in more detail what happened to our expected surplus, and hopefully we'll be able to report to you at our next board meeting next month. In the meantime, stay healthy, and hopefully with the vaccine being available in the village this coming weekend, we'll all be able to eventually return to the life for which we all moved to Laguna Village. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. On to the report of architectural controls and standards. I'll be reporting on that. The committee is looking into some standards for possible updating and maybe possible changing. We're also keeping updated with things that are happening in the alterations department, of which more will be coming out later on. So our next meeting is January 25th, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. as a virtual meeting. Okay, report of Communications Committee, Recommendary.
Annie, you're muted. Annie, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. The third communications committee did meet January 13th. This was our first meeting since 2019. The committee did review the charter. No changes were made to the charter. We also discussed future topics for future articles for the Village Breeze. The committee also agreed to continue with our quarterly meetings. The next meeting is scheduled for April 14th. It will be a virtual meeting. Thank you, President Parsons.
Very much, Annie. And report of Maintenance Construction Committee, Director Muchnick.
Okay, the committee met on January 4th of this year, and they discussed the project log, where we are with current projects, which ones we expect to have completed shortly. And we also discussed the issue of some additional Shepherd's Crook. We're looking at Shepherd's Crook along the dog park on Ridge Route. Even though the wall is currently owned by the city of Laguna Woods, people seem to be accessing the village, crossing over that wall. It's a short wall, and we're looking at now installing Shepherd's Crook there. We're still meeting with the city to discuss, since it's their wall, how the Shepherd's Crook can be applied to the wall. Next meeting of the M&C committee is March 1st at 1:30, and it'll be a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Very much. On to the Park and Golf Cart Task Force. I'm passing the baton to Director Dodson. You have anything you'd like to bring up, Debbie?
We have a meeting tomorrow at 1:30, and I'm looking forward to chairing my first meeting of that committee. I do have some things to discuss with regards to EV. So that'll be interesting if anybody is, I don't know if it's broadcast. I think they are going to broadcast it on Granicus, but I'm not sure we clarified that yet. But at any rate, I look forward to taking over.
Okay. I think, Siobhan, that decision was made that would be through Granicus. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes, Steve.
Yeah, I think that was the last thing. We went back and forth, but I believe that it will be on Granicus, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. On to the Garden Villa Rec Room Subcommittee, Director Jarrett.
We had our last meeting in October. We usually only meet 3 times a year. And now we have a meeting scheduled for the February the 23rd at 1:30 p.m. So looking forward to that to see where to go. We're going to go with our components, and then we have a couple new members coming onto the committee. So it should be interesting. Thank you.
If you want to continue on with the report of the Landscape Committee.
Okay. We had an excellent meeting this month, and the department head, Kurt Weeman, gave a really wonderful, informative update. The slope contract was approved last month, and they're already working on that. They're using a pre-emergent to cut down the weeds, so it's important for residents to know the slopes are only worked on twice a year. So, and gosh, I guess a lot of you realize we have a lot of slopes around here. They have started spraying some selective herbicides to take care of the weeds in the turf, and fertilizing will start in the spring. You have to realize now a lot of people are complaining about the grass, but it's the dormant season for the grass, so that's why it's brown right now. The rat problem goes on and on. the state came out with a new law that we cannot use the product that we were using, so we're backing off of that and going to the same manufacturer, but the first generation of that product. But I got to remind people that they're looking for food, they're looking for water, so just be careful. We all have to work together to keep the rat population, the mice population down. The 5-man planning crew has started, and there's a long list of people who need new plants. So both the planning crew and the regular crews will be planning. Actually, they are now. And the crews are working together, and they are fully staffed. The residents should know that a contractor and the staff are working the slopes. Staff doesn't work any further up the slopes than 30 degrees due to the sometimes dangerous conditions. The bulk of the tree trimming is done by a contractor. The cost effectiveness is key. This year, they're going to trim 3,800 trees. And remember, species is the key. They have to cut and trim by species. Then this 5-year program. 2 tree removals were approved and sent to the board, and you all approved those today, so that was good. The building captain at 3363 cul-de-sac reported bare slopes and a lot of tree debris around the perimeter. So pictures were provided, and Mr. Weedman said that he's made arrangements for his crew to go out there and work on those slopes the first week of February. The shrub maintenance is done 4 times yearly, roughly every 4 months. Watch our website under landscaping for the schedule. And don't forget, when you want to know a rule about landscape or anything about landscaping, primarily you can find it on our website and in our landscape manuals out there. The next meeting will be February the 2nd at 9:30 a.m. Thank you. Steve, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Report of the Water Subcommittee, Director Reza Karimi is passing the baton as chair to Director Donna Rains-Sostat. So would either one of you come forward with comments at this time?
I'm delighted and excited about taking over the chairmanship of that committee. It's obviously incredibly important. Not only is water important to us, but in Orange County, we only get water from somewhere else. So water conservation is critical. Tomorrow's meeting is at 10 o'clock. There's a lot going on in Washington tomorrow, but we hope to have some of you watching the meeting as well. We'll make it as efficient as possible and looking forward to it. It's a quarterly meeting, so it will be tomorrow and then not again until April. Thank you.
Okay, Reza, do you have any outgoing comments?
No, I just want to thank Donna taking over the water committee and appreciate that. And I'll be participating and making a contribution I can to the committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. On to the report of Resident Policy and Compliance Committee, Director Jerry.
Thank you, President Parsons. We're working on several things right now. We're looking at resales for people from moving from one home to another in the village. We're just looking at it. We're taking a look at it. This past meeting, we looked at the smoking rules, and we had Chief Rojas in there with us discussing the smoking rules, because the people in the 3-story buildings complain constantly about the smokers. And when people call security usually can't get out there fast enough to find a person smoking. So what was decided that we're not going to, also one building was asking for new signs, more signs to put up for no smoking. And we didn't really want to put signs out there on 3-story buildings with no smoking. They all have signs in the elevators on each floor, outside the elevators. So what we decided that Stuart Hack would write up a document so that the building captains would have a document to give to people who they find smoking. And he already completed that document and is turning it over to building captains this week. Another thing we are looking at we're still working on our barbecue rules. We had them ready to go to the board, but I pulled them back because we really didn't have an implementation plan. So that's what we're working on. We're hoping to finish that this next meeting. And the other big thing we're working on right now is social media policy. And Sandra's group has given us a good draft to begin with, and so we're working with that. And I'm hoping that we'll have something to bring to the February board meeting. And our next meeting will be February the 3rd at 9:30 a.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Okay, any other reports from Third Mutual? Okay, moving on to GRF committee highlights. Community Access Committee, Director Karimi.
Thank you, President Parson. The CAC meeting was on January 14 at 1:30 p.m. Several items was discussed. Some of them was mentioned by Siobhan about the activities. Some of the items of worth mentioning are the staff at the recreation department still have issues with the computers, so please be patient with them. And they're looking at putting gates for Garden 1, mulchman for Garden 1, and garden centers are open. The horse boarding facility are getting several improvements. For more information, you can go to the site and see what are all the improvements. Other announcement was that AARP providing free tax services for the residents. And for more information, you can contact the rec center. You can get those information. Some of the activities that the VMS looking at and GRF looking at to increase the outdoor activities and such as the bingo, concert, yoga, movie theater, etc. They're looking at those activities. They rolled out 2 Zumba classes this week. So there are a lot of activities going on and outdoor activities being increased. Also, everyone is looking at how we're going to be going the post-COVID and start opening up the facility in a safe manner so everyone can enjoy and get back to the activities and be in a 55 plus active community. So those are the issues that were discussed on top of a lot of other issues. The next meeting is scheduled for February 11 at 1:30. That's
okay,
the report.
Thank you. One question that keeps coming up, I see in message traffic, is what's the status on outdoor workout station? Is there any update on that from Jeff, Siobhan, or anyone?
I think Clubhouse 1 activities are being, reignited, and there are some activities going to Clubhouse 1, but I think Jeff and Siobhan can shed more light on that, when and how.
Yep, the fitness center is open at Clubhouse 1 daily. That's the current outside fitness area.
Okay. Debbie, do you have a comment?
Yeah, as I recall from that meeting, I think that the outdoor fitness stations have kind of been put on hold. I think we're just working on some other things to get some more outdoor activities, like what the report Reason just gave. But that was my recollection, was that had been put on hold.
Okay, I see Jeff shaking his head, so more to follow on that probably. Okay, thank you. On to the Equestrian Center, Equestrian Center Ad Hoc Committee, Recommendary.
Thank you, President Parsons. I am reading a report submitted by Director Bada from the Equestrian Center Ad Hoc Committee. The highlights are, number 1, the 2020 annual dues for the Equestrian Center will remain the same. Individualized nutrition programs in the 6 weeks since it was introduced, there was a stark difference for the better. in terms of Help the Herd, a fundraiser through VCF Village Community Fund to help ensure the Equestrian Center horses continue to thrive and be available to all residents to enjoy. This will be a tax-deductible donation. To make a donation, people can go to the Equestrian Center website for additional information as well. And finally, Equine Assisted Learning Program. This is a kind of a horse therapy that's going on with the center, and more information about this program will be forthcoming. The next meeting will be March 4th at 1:30 p.m., and it will be a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On to the GRF Finance Committee, Director Muchnick.
Thank you, President Parsons. The GRF Finance Committee had its last regular meeting back in December, but had a special meeting more recently where it addressed two issues. Both issues were related to projects regarding the malware issue here in the village. One had to do with switching priorities to tackle the upgrading of the network system, moving money from the 2022 budget to the actually not moving money, but switching projects. One that's currently scheduled for the 22 budget year, moving that project to the 21 year, and moving the project from the current year, 2021, into the 2022 to upgrade the network system. The second issue had to do with looking at cyber security insurance. And so there were discussions held on both those issues and recommendations made to the GRF board related to that. The next formal meeting of the GRF Finance Committee is February 17th at 1:30 in the afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. On to GRF Landscape Committee, Director Jarrett.
Yes, thank you, President Parsons. The committee met on November the 30th, and I reported that what went on there in the December meeting. We're going to meet again next time in February the 10th at 1:30 p.m. And I just want to remind people that if you want to really see how nice the creek looks now, because it was all trimmed back last month, we can only trim it in December, and it grows pretty fast. So you really ought to take a walk down there. I try to go at least once a week. It's really, really pretty now with everything trimmed back, but we're not allowed to trim it but once a year around December timeframe. So I suggest you take a trip, take a walk. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. On to GRF Maintenance Construction Committee, Director Frankel.
We've got a special walkthrough and meeting tomorrow at the driving range, which is approaching $500,000. There's a problem there on the driving range with grading, and they're going to propose a complete regrading of the driving range because all of the balls end up at one corner and some of them go on the street. We also discussed seismic valves to close automatically for gas for the GRF facilities, and I raised the issue of what about gas in the 110 area, and I have yet to hear back from Ernesto, so I need to pursue that. And the last item that I had on my notes deals with the break room and resident services area, and at $38,000 as to who approved that and whether they had that authority. And that completes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. On to the Clubhouse 1 Renovation Ad Hoc Committee, Director Engdahl.
So far, there's a lot of activity going on. But behind the scenes, there has been a rough draft request for proposal generated towards finding a qualified contractor to find a programmatic space utilization study of the Clubhouse 1 facility. That's not been released yet, but we're looking for a return on the proposals sometime in May. Next meeting of the ad hoc committee is still to be determined.
Okay, thank you very much. Media and Communications Committee, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The Media and Communications Committee met on January 18th, and it was a meeting that was full of information, so I'm just going to give some of the highlights. First of all, the December-January issue of the Village Breeze is out, and hopefully everyone has received their copy. In addition to the information submitted by each mutual, there's also a survey inside the magazine, and this survey is an opportunity for the media and communication staff to get more familiar with the readers and what kinds of information they would like to see published in the Breeze. The survey is on page 12 of the magazine. There are instructions on how to complete the survey and how to send the survey back. So we hope that residents do the survey and send it back to Media and Communications so they will have more information on how to serve the community. Another highlight of the committee is a report that we've been anticipating for a long time. And just to give you a little background, the Golden Rain Foundation Board engaged the broadband group to conduct an assessment of the Laguna Woods Village cable system, including future requirements, key business considerations, evaluation of potential strategic options, as well as potential sales of the system. The presentation was excellent and covered a great deal of information, more so than I can present here. So some of the highlights was the group found that Laguna Woods Village has a very high quality internet system. The system uses industry standard architecture and equipment and is well maintained. The cable TV service and internet service provided by West Coast Internet are average for the area. That it also states that the internet service lag other nearby communities in terms of access to the system. They also provided a kind of a grid, a rating grid for how our cable system and our internet system rates overall. So in terms of the cable overall system, it exceeds the industry standard. In terms of head ends, that also exceeds industry standard. The fiber plant exceeds industry standards. Customer equipment exceeds industry standards. The vehicle fleet meets industry standards. In terms of staff, they exceed industry standards. TV service overall exceeds industry standards. In terms of service calls, they meet the industry standards. In terms of internet service overall, the service provider does require extensive repair and upgrade. Internet connectivity requires some extensive repair and upgrade. The internet physical plant requires extensive repair and upgrade. The service level agreement meets the industry standard, and pricing meets industry standard. In addition to those highlights, there was a lot more information. They also presented that in terms of the upgrade, it's going to cost a lot of money, millions of dollars, but that's something that can be phased in over time. And finally, there was a small ad hoc committee that was formed to look at all of this report, to come back with some suggestions and some recommendations to the GRF board. So more information will be forthcoming on that. And that is the end of my report. Thank you.
Okay, I have one question. It has come to me from different sources. Is there any planning during the upgrade system for streaming in the very near future? And I go back a couple of months ago that IT gave us an update that streaming is going to be the name of the game after a few years. So is our plan accommodating that in the near future?
It was addressed in the overall evaluation, and that's an aspect that really does need to be upgraded. And that's part of what the subcommittee will be looking at. But they did look at that, President Parsons, And they did say that it's going to require a lot of finances to upgrade, but they did look at it.
Okay, is anybody developing a financial plan over time to accommodate all these changes?
The financial plan was included, well, it was recommended that the staff look at, so the media and communication staff are working on a budget that's going to be submitted to the GRF board.
Okay, any questions on her report? Okay, moving on to Mobility and Vehicles Committee, Director Karimi.
The committee will meet on February 3rd. That will be my first meeting. I will report in the next board meeting of our activity. Thank you.
Okay, Security and Community Access Committee, Director Wayne.
Thank you, Steve.
Hi.
Yes, the committee met on December 28th, and there were 3 issues that were discussed. One was that some events have requested that we supply security officers to them, and that was agreed upon. And if any event decides they want a security officer, they may request one, and the rate for that is $40 an hour. Another issue that was discussed is that we seem to be having a problem with some of our gates, the operation of some of our gates. And when they are inoperable, then it takes quite some time for the operations to be restarted because we have to have a company come out, and the company may or may not have the parts for our gates. So it's being explored to see if we could actually have parts on hand so that if an issue occurs, then the company can come out and we would have the parts for them. The other issue was on the Disaster Preparedness Task Force. Now, Andy, do you want to talk about that, or do you want me to talk about that?
Why don't you go ahead, Director Wayne, because the next committee meeting is going to be January 26th.
Okay. So apparently there is an online training session for Disaster Preparedness Task Force, and others are being planned through the American Red Cross. So that's the update on disaster preparedness. Thank you, Director McCary.
Okay, thanks to both of you for that. On to the report of Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings, Director Frankel.
We did not discuss violations at the last meeting because there was some kind of a special meeting and there were no violations. The next meeting is tomorrow, and Director Debbie Dotson. Are you going to be there?
I had asked Kush about being the alternate because I have conflict with another meeting, but I can be there for a part of it.
Okay, I have to do this GRF M&C thing tomorrow for the driving range. So I'll be there in the first part of it, but I have to leave.
Yeah,
so,
that was my part. I could be there for the first part.
Well, okay, you need to understand how it all works. So it's good for you to be there at the start.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. GRF Strategic Planning Ad Hoc Committee, Director Muchnick.
Okay, the committee has met a few times. It had a recent meeting and is looking at revenue options, some opportunities to generate some revenue from sources that had not previously been considered. But at this point, it's all in such an early stage that there's nothing really to present or discuss at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Any committees or ad hoc committees that I've missed? Okay. Alrighty, on to item 15, future agenda items. I think they're all relevant, unless somebody has changes they want to make or add. Okay, Lynn?
I think we need to put the social media policy on there, please. Thank you.
Others? Okay, hearing none, we'll keep those on as that and add as H, special media policy. Okay, we're at the time now for director's comments, so I'll go around. Donna, any comments?
No comment.
Hey, Lynn?
Yes, I just got an email message from Kaiser, one of their patients, and they said not to call them about the vaccine, but they're going to notify everybody that's over 75 as soon as they got their care workers completed, all those vaccines. But they talked about the short supply of the vaccine, which we all know by now. But they did say they are going to contact everybody over 75 for an appointment, so we don't need to call them. So it's good.
Thank you. Annie?
Just thank you, President Parsons. This was a good meeting. Happy New Year to everybody, and looking forward to 2021. And buckle down and get ready. Thank you.
Okay, Robert?
No comments. Thank you.
Hey, John?
No comments, thank you.
Debbie?
Great meeting, and thanks, Lynn. Yes, my parking task force meeting is at 2 p.m., not 1:30. I'm so used to our meetings being at 1:30. 2 p.m. tomorrow.
Thank you. Ralph? You're still muted? There you go. Any last minute comments? Ralph, can you hear me?
You're
There you
talking
go.
to me. Yeah, no comment. Good meeting, Steve.
Okay, thank you very much. Reza, any comments?
Thank you. It's a great meeting. Also, I want to thank all the members that gave us their input, took their time, and wrote down their inputs and helped us to improve the processes and improve our community. I want to thank them because it takes their time also to help us to do things. I want to thank them too.
Absolutely. Thank you. Craig?
One thing that people may or may not be aware of, the new stimulus package, which is $600 per person, you may have been used to getting a check in the past, or you may have been used to having it deposited into your account. They are now also using debit cards. So when you get something that looks official, don't trash it. It could be your $600 debit card.
Right, and take it into your bank or credit union. They know how to handle that and put it into your account. I just did it 2 days ago.
Yeah, if you can find a bank open.
Yeah. Okay,
So
thank you very much.
The lunch is on you, Steve.
Thanks. Okay, Rosemarie, do you have any comments?
On the part of VMS, we want to thank you for appointing a third member for the 3-year term and for reappointing Raquel, because she has worked very hard with us. And as you know, we keep trying to do a lot of things to move forward, which we will report at the closed session. And I also want to announce that I have been selected as chair of VMS for this year. And Wei Ming is vice chair for this year. And Diane Phelps is second vice chair. So you're represented very much by third. Although Diane Phelps was in third, she's a GRF representative. So we have a lot of things that we could report on at the closed meeting. So thank you very much. And it was a great meeting, and Happy New Year to all.
Wei Ming?
Yeah, I think it is so great that we are able to bring the vaccine to the village. And I really want to thank the staff. I know VMS has been working very hard, have many meetings with the county, with the memorial care, and with the city. So it's not a simple effort. They did put a lot of effort to bring the vaccine to the village. And I think that we really need to thank the VMS working so hard to bring the vaccine over to the village. Thank you.
Hey, Raquel, any last minute comments?
Well, thank you all for electing me, and I want to ditto what Wei Ming said. to staff because it's incredible that we're getting 3,000. And for all the people that will not be getting it, that they could get it the following week, hopefully. I've gotten my first shot, so people on Osina, don't give up. Just keep hitting submit and keep trying. You can get the vaccination as well.
Raquel,
That's good to hear.
didn't they say that they're opening a number of new sites, so there should be more availability for appointments? But Jeff would be more
Correct.
expert on that.
Yeah, Steve
Good,
said
Jeff.
that, or someone mentioned that, or Jeff mentioned that during the meeting. That Soka, Knott's Berry Farm, Disneyland, and I don't know the other two that are coming aboard. Steve or Jeff could verify that.
Go ahead, Jeff, and give your parting comments if you would.
Yeah, I can mention the 5 sites that are designated are Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, Orange County Fairgrounds, the Great Park in Irvine, and Soka University. They're not all open yet, but they're working on it.
Are there other sub places?
Those are the
Are there
5
other
super sites.
locations? I know, are there any other sites besides those?
Not that I'm aware of. Those are the 5 super sites from the county, and fortunately, we were able to get the county to work with us directly.
Are there parting comments for open session? Okay. Siobhan, any comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. Cheryl, any comments?
No comment.
Okay. Is Grant on as well?
No comment, thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone, and we do thank all the people that contributed in the open forum. There's going to be a lot more talk going on about that in the near future. So thank you for your ideas as well. That does help. Any ideas are definitely we want to look at. This is a new year, like everyone has said. We hope that things change and things will open up better. But still take precautions so that you don't just walk in to a situation where you pick up COVID-19. Please be alert and don't drop your guard. So thank you so much for tuning in also to anybody in the TV land. So thank you so much. And at this time, we'll take a recess and come back at 20 minutes to 12 for the closed session. Thank you.